Hello YouTube, it is your boy B3, back with another kicking movie reaction review. Doing another kaiju film for you today. Last time we did The Giant Claw, and today we are doing Mothra 1961, aka Mothra. It's a sci-fi fantasy film, hour and 41 minutes. There are many ways to watch this film. I have 2 copies of it on DVD. There is a Toho movie set that you can get with it in there. It's a bunch of non-Godzilla Toho sci-fi films like the H-Man and stuff. I think that set's kind of rare now. I do have that set, so I'll be reviewing H-Man and everything. You can also get it on a commonly found set, which is another sci-fi kaiju set. It comes with 2 Ray Harryhausen films, The Giant Claw and Mothra. Have that set as well. Ran me about $14 on Amazon Prime for a physical copy. And there's also kind of newer ways to watch it and stuff. You can get a steelbook of just the film, which I kind of want to do, even though I have 2 copies of it. Big film guy, I guess. You can also watch it for free on Crackle, or you can pay for a copy on Vudu, YouTube, Google Play, and Amazon Prime. Yes. Those are just many of the ways to watch it. A lot of people have been asking me in the comment sections recently where they can watch these films, so I thought I'd really tell you this time. It's got a 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb, and 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, and 88% of Google users like the film. Release date, May 10th, 1962. So we got some conflict there. Director, Ishiro Honda. Yes, that Ishiro Honda. Music composed by Yuji Koseki. Adapted from The Luminous Fairies and Mothra, which is a book. That's right, Mothra is an adaptation. You can watch it in Japanese with subs, or in English with the dub. Not the best dub. It's like better than the Ebera dub, but not as good as like the Shin Godzilla dub, which is probably the best Godzilla dub we have. Also, the effects are by Eiji Tsuburaya, of course. Yes, that Eiji Tsuburaya. So yeah, quick read-up. A flying monster terrorizes Japan after a nightclub owner kidnaps 2 tiny princesses from their island paradise. So, some sailors get stranded on an island that's supposed to be really radioactive. Then they get rescued, and they're not radioactive. And they're like, oh, it's probably because of the juice that the natives made us drink. And everyone was like, natives? That island's supposed to be abandoned. We've been running nuclear tests there. Oh, God, what have we done? So they send an expedition there, and they meet these 2 little fairy girls, and it turns out the guy who financed the expedition, the nightclub owner, wasn't there for scientific reasons. Duh! He was there to kidnap these little girls and make them work as slaves in his nightclub. And he's like telling the media and stuff, oh, they're not slaves. Of course they're not slaves. They do it from their own will. But they won't let anyone talk to the girls. And they're like, oh, they don't speak Japanese. You can't interview them. No pictures, etc., etc. But, like, there was a reporter on the mission who knows that, he's keeping them against their will, and there's a scientist who's on the mission who knows it as well, and all this stuff. And they're like, you're keeping these girls as slaves. And he's like, hey, that's slander. If you print that, we're gonna sue you. Or maybe it's libel. I don't know. I think it's libel. I think it's slander when he said it, libel when he prints it. I don't know. If I'm wrong, correct me. But then he's like, fine, you can go have an interview with the girls. Because he honestly doesn't think the girls speak Japanese. So he's like, they won't talk to him anyways. But then when he sends them to talk to the girls, he leaves them in a bird cage. That's right, he keeps them in a bird cage. So it's like, are you stupid? They're obviously held against their will. You just revealed that, you moron businessman. But the dude also, like, the reporter had a secret camera that she used to take a picture of them in the birdcage, so the newspaper was printing all this stuff about him keeping them as slaves, and etc., etc. And then they were like, And then they would actually talk to the reporters via telepathy, like their mouths moved and stuff, but they were like, we don't speak any language. We communicate via telepathy, and everyone hears the language they speak. And then they were like, you guys, like, need to let us go, because Mothra's coming for us, and it's not gonna be good. And they're like, what's Mothra, and all this stuff, and they kind of figure it out. And of course, Mothra is a giant insect goddess that they worship on the island. She hatches from her egg when they're in trouble, and her larva swims across the sea and goes to fight and stuff. And the larva costume in this film is a costume. In other films, the larvas are like puppets. In this film, the Mothra larva is a puppet sometimes, but a lot of the time, it's a Chinese dragon. You know the Chinese dragon method? Like you see those parades and stuff where there's like a bunch of dudes inside a Chinese dragon costume making it move? That's how the Mothra costume moves for the larva. It's the Chinese dragon method. And this is, I think, the only time that was done for Mothra, to be honest. Now we just get CG. I think it went suit, puppet, CG. But, yes. So then Mothra kind of gets a little injured, and she makes a cocoon, and then they blast the cocoon with masers. They don't really call them masers in this film, but they're masers. And the cocoon sets on fire, but then she hatches out of it and flies away. All this stuff. And I gotta say, the most iconic image from this movie isn't of Mothra as a larva or as a moth. It's of Mothra as a cocoon. The cocoon, on the broken Tokyo Tower is, such an iconic image and one of my favorite images from film, to be completely honest. Especially the image of, her wings spread sitting on top of the cocoon she just came out of, and it's like, oh my god, it looks so good. And this is also the best cocoon effect that Mothra's ever had, as well. I think all the other ones are a step down from this one, and this is the first one. They should have gone up, but I think they went down. This is a really good cocooning effect. So Mothra flies off, and the guy has escaped to his home country. He's, from Lithuania, something? I don't remember. Country with a lot of whites. Because they go to where his country is, and it's a lot of whites. Which is weird that they got a bunch of white actors to play the people in the other country. But when you're on the island, the natives aren't black actors. It's a bunch of Asian people in blackface. And it's like, I know there weren't a lot of black actors in Japan at this time, or even today, but Christ, if you're gonna do that, just have Asian natives. It's okay. Oh my god, why do all natives have to be black? Who knows, man? Who knows? Almost as if some races think of other races as lesser for some reason. But, yeah, she flies off to his country, and he is captured by the police, but then he, points guns and starts shooting into the crowd, and he runs off, and the police shoot him, and then they're able to free the fairies, but they're contemplating how to do it. First, they gotta lure Mothra to them without making her aggressive. So they actually have this thing around the fairies that cuts off their telepathic connection to Mothra that Mothra uses to track them. It's something scientists threw together. They were like, this material can block radio waves, so if we tweak it a little bit, it can block brain waves. And I was like, that's bullshit, but it's fun, so I don't care. So they do that. And then they, paint a big Mothra symbol on the ground. You know how it goes. They, kind of play the Mothra theme on the church bells in that country, and then when Mothra lands, they release the girls, who go home. Happy ending in a kaiju film. Hooray! Happy ending where the kaiju survives. That's pretty wild. Well, I guess you can have a happy ending where the kaiju survives in, a versus film, but not really in a solo film. That's very rare. And this is actually the only example of it I can think of off the top of my head, other than Gamera the Giant Monster, where they launch him into space. Yeah. So Very fun film. The special effects are great. The writing is fun. It's got a bunch of fun comedy at the beginning and stuff that I really liked, and some in the middle. I enjoyed the sets as well. You know, I love everything about this movie. It's such a great film. A true classic. And I've kind of come to realize that a lot of Western kaiju fans just have straight up not seen this. Like, I know more people who have seen the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy than have seen the original Mothra. And I gotta admit, both that trilogy and this film were hard to find in the States for a while. Like, the first time I watched it was on Netflix DVD. Yeah, that tells you how old I am. When Netflix still did DVDs. That's how I watched Varan and the Invincible, Frankenstein Conquers the World, and War of the Gargantuas for the first time. It was on Netflix DVDs, as well as Mothra. And that was the first time I'd ever seen it, and that was either towards the end of high school or shortly after. Then... it was just hard to find for a while. Now you can find it much easier. You can stream it for free on Crackle. And there's a steelbook for it that came out pretty recently. At least pretty recently at the time of recording this. I actually record these way ahead of when they come out. Most of the time. But, yeah, you know, if you can get your hands on Mothra 1961, you will not regret it. It's definitely a film worth having a physical copy of. A true classic, you know. Classic among kaiju films, classic among Japanese films, classic among foreign films, and honestly, just classic among films in general. It's a great movie. It really is. So that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I'll see you all next time.